Today we're going to cover the second half of 6.2, and today we're talking about unit rates and equivalent rates. So first off, we need to know what a unit rate is. If you look at the top of your notes, it says a unit rate is a rate that has a denominator of 1 when expressed in fraction form. So that's the most important thing we need to realize, is whenever we're given these rates, we want to make our denominator 1. Okay, so I have 3 examples. We're going to find a unit rate. And I want you guys to notice that word unit. And if you're familiar with the word, you may remember that unit means 1, which is why we're going to talk about a denominator of 1. So for the first one, if I have 35 miles in 5 hours, so 35 miles per 5 hours, my unit rate is going to tell me how many miles in 1 hour. So notice that I have a denominator of 1. So what you're going to end up doing every single time is you're going to end up dividing your numerator and your denominator by whatever your denominator is. So in this case, my denominator is 5, so I'm going to divide my numerator by 5 and my denominator by 5. So my unit rate would be 7 miles per 1 hour. Pretty simple stuff. It's not usually too tricky. For the next one, let's look at $285 per 15 lunches. So once again, we're looking for a unit rate. So I want my denominator to be 1. So instead of how much money for 15 lunches, I want to know how much money for 1 lunch. Okay, so I'm going to divide my numerator and my denominator by 15. And if you take 285 divided by 15, you should end up with $19. So my unit rate would be $19 for 1 lunch. Okay, and last one in this section. Let's look at 42 points per 8 games. So for my unit rate, I want to know how many points in 1 game. So I'm going to divide my numerator and my denominator by 8. Now in this one, 8 doesn't go into 42 evenly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 42 and divide it by 8, and I'm going to turn it into a mixed number. So 8 will go into 42 5 times. So we're going to have 5 for our whole number. It has 2 left over out of 8. But once again, we don't want to leave that as a fraction, as an unsimplified fraction. So our answer would be 5 1/4 points per 1 game. Okay, so unit rates, not too bad. You're going to divide your numerator and your denominator by whatever your denominator is. Second idea we're going to talk about today are equivalent rates. So what an equivalent rate is, it's going to set you up with a rate. So for this first example, I'm going to give you 5 centimeters per 1 minute, but I want to know how many centimeters are in 1 hour, and using this same equivalency. So 5 centimeters to 1 minute, I want to know how many centimeters are in 1 hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 5 centimeters per 1 minute, and what I want you guys to look at first is I want you to kind of think to yourself, out of centimeters and minutes, which one is changing? And so if you look at the left side to the right side, the centimeters is staying the same, but I need to go from minutes to hours. So I'm going to multiply by a new rate. And to find this rate, I need to set up some kind of rate between minutes and hours. So I'm going to have minutes to hours, and you just need to fill in the missing numbers. So you're going to ask yourself, how many minutes are in 1 hour? And that one's pretty easy. I know there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now here's the thing. If you have a rate set up this way, you can also set up the rate as 1 hour to 60 minutes. The tricky part is we're going to have to figure out which one of these rates I need to use to convert my original rate. So what you're going to look at you're going to look at the unit you're trying to get rid of. So in this case, I want to change minutes to hours, so I need to get rid of this minutes right here. Whatever rate you are trying to get rid of, that is the rate that is going to go across from it. So I need minutes to go in the numerator of my rate that I'm multiplying by. And I know that if I have minutes in my numerators, I'm going to have hours in my denominators. So that means I'm going to use this first rate we set up. The reason why my units that cancel out have to be across from each other, it's kind of like whenever we're multiplying fractions and we divide out things that they have in common. Well, if you look at this fraction here that I'm multiplying, my minutes cancel out. So now I have 5 times 60, which gives me 300 centimeters, because notice that I still do have that unit left, and in my denominator I have 1 hour. So my missing piece in my original problem was 300 centimeters. Okay, so these take a little bit of practice. So for the next one, let's look at 5 meters per 1 second. And I'm going to change that to how many meters in 1 hour. Okay, now this time you may notice that I need to go from seconds to hours. Okay, so we're going to rewrite my original rate, 5 meters to 1 second, and I'm going to multiply by some rate. Okay, now this time I want to get rid of my seconds, so I know I'm going to put seconds in my numerator. Now, you may know an easy way to get from seconds to hours, but it might be easier to first go from seconds to minutes. So if you notice here, my seconds will cancel out because they're on opposite sides of my fraction bar. Okay, but how many seconds are in 1 minute? We know that there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. Okay, but now I have meters over minutes. I don't want meters over minutes. I want meters over hours. So now I want to cancel out my minutes, and I want to go from minutes to hours. And we can go ahead and use the rate from the problem before. I know there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, and once again my minutes are canceled out, and the units that I want, meters over hours, are what I'm left with. So now I have to take 5 times 60 times 60, which is going to give you 18,000 meters, over 1 times 1 times 1 just gives me 1 hour. So that is my equivalent rate. Okay, let's do one more of those. For this last one, let's look at 3 pounds per $1. I want to know how many ounces for $1. Okay, so this time I'm trying to go from pounds to ounces. Notice my denominator stays the same. So this time I have 3 pounds over $1. This time, when I multiply by my rate, the unit I'm trying to cancel out is in my numerator. Notice that I want to get rid of the pounds. So this time, I'm going to have to put my rate that I'm trying to get, or my unit trying to get rid of, in the denominator. So I want to go from pounds to ounces. And I know there's 16 ounces in 1 pound. And just like it should, my pounds cancel out, and I'm left with ounces over dollars. So 3 times 16 gives me 48 ounces over $1.